How does one assess who is and isn't their heroes? This was kind of an odd thought that came to my head before getting into this video topic. Months back, I had made a comment about Michael Jordan being one of my heroes, in which someone was kind enough to remind me that I needed to reevaluate who is and isn't my heroes, since Michael Jordan hasn't accomplished wonders like curing cancer or walking on the surface of the moon. I suppose this assessment, no matter how rough, is fair. So assessing who is and isn't your hero is kind of fascinating, and that just comes down to who is and isn't of interest to you. If you're a sci-fi book writer, you probably look up to someone like Isaac Asimov. If you're an actor, I'm sure you probably looked up to somebody like Meryl Streep. For me, my life for the longest time revolved around football, specifically American football. It's as much a part of me as Star Trek, Star Wars, or any Batman comic has ever been. I honestly really never thought about addressing this on this channel. That was until a friend of mine, content creator Dan over at Eyebrow Cinema, did a touching piece on Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit, for those who do not know, had a hell of a career as a wrestler. Unfortunately, his legacy will always be clouded by a horrific double murder-suicide. Dan's epic, emotional video exploring his thoughts through a childhood hero made me go through something similar with mine and ask those same painful questions. Football became a passion of mine in second grade, among something I still hold to this day, writing. Football helped me explore relationships and the physical gifts I was given. Unfortunately, despite my immense love for football and my physical gifts, I was never an impact player. Throughout my entire time playing football, I never once touched the ball, was never asked to throw a pass, or was ever told to run a route. My size was my gift, and that was the end of it. Every Sunday I would admire talents from across the country, dominate games with physical gifts I wish I possessed. None of this was more true than with Michael Dwayne Vick, the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons. Michael Vick came into the league as one of the most electrifying players to maybe ever grace the field. He could change a game with one play and was constantly filling up ESPN top 10s with his incredible moments. These feats were astonishing to someone like me, a white boy weighing over 300 plus pounds that was put on the offensive line from day one. I envied his talent, his ability, and his awareness. The height of Michael Vick's popularity came when EA Sports released Madden 2004, in which Michael Vick was not only the cover player, but arguably the greatest in-game sports player ever. Vick, like in real life, was nearly unstoppable, demonstrating super heroic talents that made every kid clamor to play as his team, the Atlanta Falcons. My weekends after football games were spent with teammates fighting over who would play with Michael Vick or who would be cursing his name.
Scramble.
The game-changing plays, weekends spent running around in Madden like a madman, and playing street ball pretending to be number 7 changed in an instant. In August of 2007, Michael Vick, one of my heroes, pled guilty to operating an illegal dogfighting operation.
A former #1 draft pick losing a $120 million contract over dogfights?
Michael Vick may lose not only part of his freedom, could go to jail for up to a year, a sizable sum of money, but could also lose his career with the Atlanta Falcons and beyond.
Michael Vick agreed Monday to plead guilty to federal dogfighting conspiracy charges. This is Vick at a court appearance last month.
I've mentioned in several videos throughout my channel as well as my social media how much dogs have meant to me. For many people, they are animals, but to me, they are much more. Since the day I was born, I've had a canine companion and fully believe in the power of their love and the connection we share to them. I was heartbroken as the game I loved to play became uncomfortable to play, and the jersey I wore during backyard football was unsightly. Michael Vick would go on to serve 21 months in federal prison for running the illegal dogfighting ring on his 15-acre property and the damage done to over 70 beautiful creatures. Vick's once glamorous public image was the complete opposite. Protests cried out for a more strict punishment for Michael Vick, who would go from being the NFL's highest paid star overnight to a bankrupt felon sleeping his nights away in solitary confinement in a penitentiary in Leavenworth, Kansas. From there, Vick fell off the radar of sports shows, jerseys disappeared from stadiums, and soon became a bit of an afterthought in my young mind. In early 2010, BET released an exclusive series documenting Michael Vick's numerous mistakes and time in prison. Somehow, someway, I found myself watching the series and watching the trials and tribulations of a guilty man coming to terms with that guilt. The series was a collaboration of interviews from those that worked on the case to Vick's family as well as Vick himself. Throughout the series, it retained a sincere perspective of a man who fell from grace.
You know, and he was just, I could tell that he wasn't the same person who he used to be. You know, the money kind of changed him at that point. You know, he had so much of it that he put himself beyond the law.
Throughout it, I gained a sense of forgiveness for Michael Vick's unforgettable actions. As an animal lover, deep to my core, I admittedly never expected to come to terms with Vick's actions, but I found myself struggling. The struggle really started because I had actually seen the changes in Vick's actions, the way he carried himself, and the way he spoke about life.
Like I said, I won't talk about the situation right now, and when the investigation is over, then I'll be more than glad to answer any questions you have from.
Did you read a lot? Did you write a lot?
I mean, I learned to play chess. I read so many books.
Yeah.
I came out a much better person, much stronger person.
American political activist Eugene Victor Debs stated once, "In the very progress of society, the prison has in the very nature of things undergone some improvement, but there are vast stretches yet to be covered before the prison becomes, if it ever does, an institution for the reclamation and rehabilitation of erring and unfortunate men and women." This brought me really to the sole purpose of prison. As much as it is about punishment, it should still be about the rehabilitation and reform of people to be better.
In support of the Humane Society of the United States and my announcement to support the Animal Fighting Spectator Prohibition Act. Naive to it, but it's no excuse. I should have known better, and it's a saying, when you know better, you do better.
Get arrogant. You know, the money made me arrogant to a point where it was, he couldn't tell me nothing. My mom couldn't tell me anything. It was all about what I wanted to do.
This concept does not carry through with some acts granted, but rehabilitation should be granted to some extent. In fact, Michael Vick was charged with 2 felonies, with a maximum penalty of 5 years, and his final sentencing to be 23 months in federal prison. According to the United States Sentencing Commission, the average sentence for offenders accused of abusive sexual contact is 27 months. Vick's sentencing was aggressive as that of someone who sexually abused someone. Understandably, this comparison is apples to oranges and can be seen as some sort of excuse for Vick, but I had to ask myself, as a true animal lover who would do anything for my dogs, is that punishment equal to that of having my child be sexually assaulted? Michael Vick would eventually become the poster boy of what not to do, as he hosted numerous events speaking out against dogfighting. His acts stem from growing up in high-crime, poor areas where illegal dogfighting is a common practice.
How old are you, young man? Yeah, how old are you? You're 8. Well, that's when Michael told me when he started getting involved in dogfighting.
An excuse that isn't valid even by Vick's standards.
I was naive to it, but it's no excuse.
In August of 2009, Michael Vick signed to the Philadelphia Eagles and would appear in his first NFL game in Week 13 against his former team, the Falcons, in which he scored his first touchdown since December of 2006. The move by the Eagles and the move to reinstate Vick was met with heavy criticism that echoed through the fan base and media alike.
And I think personally he should have been executed for that. He wasn't.
Did Vick deserve another chance at a game of privilege? Did he deserve another chance at millions after a mistake had cost the lives of numerous living creatures and his own family's well-being? To this day, I still don't have the answer. Vick would go on to be a backup for the team heading into the next season, before taking over for the team starter Kevin Cobb after a concussion. Without a doubt, Michael Vick would end up playing some of the best football of his career during the few years stint with the team, including a 10-6 record that led the Eagles to the playoffs in 2010. Vick would spend the remainder of his career bouncing around numerous teams as a backup before announcing his retirement from the sport in 2017. Since then, Vick has went on to show interest in coaching and has appeared as an analyst on numerous football talk shows. Michael Vick's career with the Eagles was some of my favorite football I've ever seen.
There's play from about the 12, and there is Vick rolling and launching downfield for Deshaun Jackson, who accelerates, caught the opening play, and all the way for a touchdown! 88 yards!
Vick's famed elusiveness still remained, but his technique at his position had evolved. He became a better quarterback, and instead of being the game's hero, he elevated his teammates around him. His maturity showed, not only through the tape on the field, but in interviews.
So, I'm passionate about animals, always have been, always will be, and that'll never change. So, it's my calling now to help give back in that regard and try to help as much as I can.
To this day, I still struggle with uncertainty in my emotions towards Michael Vick.
I was stunned because Mike loved dogs. We used to have Saturdays where you could bring your kids or, whatever. And Mike would bring dogs with him to practice.
His fall wasn't as tragic as that of Chris Benoit, but was entirely avoidable in ways that Benoit's maybe wasn't.
Scans of Chris Benoit's brain by neurosurgeons from West Virginia University found evidence of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, a disease brought on by sustained head trauma known to cause depression, dementia, and erratic behavior, also known to affect boxers and NFL players.
I spent a great deal of my life suffering through various illnesses, and I never want that suffering for others, especially in something as loving as dogs. Yet, I realized I could distance myself from the man Vick was and who he had become. Can I ever forget what he did? No. Yet, why was I so excited to see him play? Perhaps it's forgiveness or some sort of misplaced understanding. Like my friend Dan said, I simply don't know. Perhaps it's the thought that we are all human and built flawed. Did Vick deserve a second chance at life? In my opinion, yes. Did he deserve a second chance to play a game of privilege? That's another thing, and in my heart, as someone who understands that there are so many talented young people trying to play for a position, my thought process is, no, he didn't deserve it. But who am I to say? Ultimately, Vick's rise, fall, and rise again comes to the question if you, the viewer, can accept it. That's the great challenge and debate that struck me every time I watched him fling the ball around. As I continue to play back those memories, I realize my connection is that of a personal one, creating a perspective that is deeply flawed, and I understand that. That perspective won't be the same for every viewer, and that's why when it comes to the debate about Michael Vick's monstrous past, I'll never argue with someone who thinks opposite of me. If nothing else, Michael Vick is a reminder that no matter how big your star is, no matter how meteoric your rise is, no matter how rich you are, you can fall. While I'll always love watching him play, the lesson learned is a painful one and an unforgettable one.